Thank you for joining us on the Overcomers Overcoming podcast series, where we profile those who have overcome or those who are in the process of overcoming any life topic. We have three objectives with this podcast series. Our first objective is we want you to know that whatever you're experiencing in life, whatever you're encountering, you're not alone. We want to join you to let you know that we together can help you through whatever challenge you may have that at the time may seem too difficult to be able to overcome. Our second objective is to help you determine with a very confident resolve there are multiple solutions, multiple factors involved in any life encounter. It's a matter of thinking into and thinking through the life situation you are encountering to determine the various options, the various solutions that are available to you. Our third objective is to help you with critical thinking skills. If whatever you're experiencing is a result of a decision you made sometime in the past, such that if you had a life redo, you would make a different decision, we want to help you determine the objective facts and factors to evaluate to help you reach a more informed decision. I'm Ron Cooper, founder of the Cooper Culture. I'm with my wife and business partner, Marty. Together we are the Cooper Culture, and the Cooper Culture is sponsoring this podcast series. Today we feature Kimberly Bell. She has a very interesting story of being born into a world where she did not feel accepted. Her biological parents, possibly because they were hoping for a boy, had her instead. She felt that she was not acceptable and not accepted into the family. But she tells a great story of how she dealt with this and how she overcame some of these feelings of inadequacy, albeit she's still working through a lot of these feelings. Marty, what are some takeaways that our listeners can take from this story?
Ron, as you listen to Kimberly's story and the fact that her biological parents rejected her, but we praise God that she was adopted into a Christian family, and the adoptive father helped her through many, many emotions, and finally the acceptance of herself and showing her Christ. This is an amazing story.
Marty, our listeners can relate to the relationships, the most important of which is the relationship with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But she had an earthly relationship with her adoptive parents, and it's a great story. Let's listen together and let's share. Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us. I think our listeners are going to be very interested in learning just enough about your life, a little bit of the background of what you have been through, but it seems that you've been through a lot. And one of the things that we do with these podcasts is just briefly describe the past so that our listeners can identify with some of the struggles you have had. We put the emphasis on overcoming and how you overcame, and you have a lot of life journey that we can benefit from. Kimberly, it's just great to have you, and thank you for being willing to share your story.
Thank you, Ron and Marty, for having me. It's just a privilege and an honor, and thank you so much for the opportunity to use your platform to inspire and to share with you my journey and just give some type of hope in this world that we're living in.
That's great. Can you give us a little bit of a synopsis of I'm going to use the term stuff, and I don't mean that lightly, but just some of the life journey you have been through, and it sounds as if you are still on a journey.
Yes, I am. I look forward and waking up as God gives me another day to embrace and to be able to smile, give someone the smile that my adopted dad always said that it's for the world to see, and learn new things. Have a 5-year-old that started all over again. She has her 4 adult siblings, and we just do it up. We just do it up.
Great.
Tells me that I'm getting old. I said, no, you're getting old. You're 60, going on 60, because she's going 6 years old. And I said, you're making me a little younger.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Getting to what you were just asking me, so yeah, I did overcome and still, as I continue my journey, because it's not over, dealing with other things that, if you see the front of the memoir that I put, is accept and embrace it all. And my journey starts with me being adopted at 6 years old. I was dropped off to my maternal aunt, but I didn't know them. And up until 6, I was with my biological mother and my biological father and my older sister. And that kind of set the foundation of the abandonment, the rejection, the feeling like that I was an unwanted gift. How could someone that I knew that was the two important people in my life not come back and get me? The rejection, and always wanting to be a part of their life or in a relationship with them. As I put in my book at the end, sometimes our outcomes are not a fairy tale, but we have to learn to accept our journey and embrace it all.
Tell us about how you learned of, and just, you were 6 years old, it sounds like, when you experienced your first official rejection. I guess that's how you're terming that, but you felt as if, am I hearing you correctly, your mom and dad did not accept you, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, I've always felt the disconnection from my biological mother. I was often, my sister and I, left with her with my dad. He was a bass guitar player. He worked outside the home, and he was in and out. But primarily we were with, our biological mother, and I've always admired this beautiful woman, but it just seemed like there was always a disconnection, like there was something about me that she disconnected from immediately, of wanting me, of accepting me as her child. And I, as a child, found myself being as quiet as I could, not being me, not asking for seconds, just trying to figure out in this little child's mind, what could I do to get this woman to love me? What could I do to get her to put her arms around me, or to show a sensitive side that I was yearning so much for, to let me know that she at least knows that I'm there, knows that I care, that knows that she cares. So it formed a unhealthy pattern that I talk about in the book, that weighed heavy on me, that made me make decisions that I made in my adult life, until I had to really release that this is where this all comes from, and I had to accept it and let it go and be determined. This does not define me. Now I know what love is, and love isn't meant to be forced or to beg or to buy. Love comes naturally, and I am a gift. I had to have God to redesign my mind and making and having me to believe that all children are a gift. Now, I felt for years I was unwanted, but I was a gift. It was who received the gift had the problem. So, yeah, that was a little challenging. And my father, I had the relationship with my father where he just did not know what to do. I know that he knew, because the attention that he gave me when he would come in and out the house, I knew he knew that I was not being taken care of, nicely, and he didn't, the best, I'm figuring the best that he could do was what he did do. There was a sister that he had in the family that could not have children, and that had asked him prior, I can take her, I can raise her. And so with that being said, I believe he gave my biological mom a chance to really let him know, do you want her or do you not? Because this is what's going to happen. And I believe the choice was taken that one night that I described in the book, and he just did what he could do, that he thought at that time was best, and that was to give me to his sister and her husband, whom said, we will take care of her, we will love her, we will raise her.
Yeah, and how did you process that aspect of rejection? You are 6 years old. Did you have enough confidence at that time that you could rationalize what was happening? I'm just supposing was something wrong with your mom. Were you able to rationalize that, or did you blame yourself for a lot of what was happening?
A lot of the years I blame myself. Ironically, I still, throughout the educational years and early years, I still wanted to go to live with my biological mom and be reunited with my siblings. Even with the stories of how I was named, because at the time, how my name came about, the adopted parents, his sister came, and because she was in such a distraught, and she told me the story over and over, and he confirmed that she was called and said that we don't have a name for her. So she came, and she said that her storage was interrupted, which was at the time, I think, As the World Turns, Kim Hughes. And that's how Kim came about. She said, because she looked at me and she said, I was laying there with such a sweetness overcome, over me. And she said she thought about Kim Hughes and how sweet her characteristic was in the stories, and said, well, how do you feel about Kim? How do you feel about Kimberly? So that's how my name came about. But I never could rationalize what I did in a 6-year-old mind was blame me as there was something wrong with me, and I had to deal with years of self-esteem, of validation or acceptance of me, and also I could rationalize no one was fighting for me. I did have that type of mentality, and that stayed with me for a while, where I went through some episodes and circumstances that I went in an angry mode over something really simple, because it was there. No one was giving me the control. No one was giving me the option. Here, once again, you are taking control, and I have no say. So at 6 years old, I did have those two rationalized in my mind, that if these two important people isn't going to fight for me, who can I trust to fight for me?
Were you targeted? In other words, did your biological mom reject you and accept your siblings, or how was that aspect?
Yeah, it was just me. Like I said, I have your older sister that is still with her, and I have other siblings under me, I believe 4, that it has, was raised with her. So,
in hindsight, with the passage of years, have you been able to determine exactly, was there a neurological or was there a mental something that caused all this? Have you been able to determine any cause of this from a rational viewpoint?
Now, through me going to college and my yearn, I've always had a passion to understand people's minds, even, the ones that are cast out or the ones that people have put on a specifics. What's happened, and just try to get into why people do the things that they do. So I've approached her, and I never got a rational answer. The answers that I got was, you have a mother, even down to recently, I should have been over it. But I have more than once, Ron, have thought that there may have been a mental health unbalance, mentality that she went through that is unexplainable. Maybe she doesn't even know, and who knows. But I have never got a confirmation or an answer on that.
I'm envisioning that you may have carried these feelings of rejection through teenage years and maybe even into adulthood. And if that might be accurate, tell our listeners how you overcame, or do you still have to fight rejection? How do you deal with this?
Well, yes, Ron, you're absolutely right. I had carried that through childhood, through adulthood, challenging, very much challenging in relationships where there was times that I should have dealt with the rejection than continuing a domestic abuse a relationship, because I just didn't want the rejection feeling again. So it took some years. It took me to understand overcoming. You can overcome in many ways, but you can overcome and still feel the discord, the unmet expectations, the frustration, the stress, the worry. And I didn't want to continue to feel like that. I wanted a release where this was healthy for me and not unhealthy, in a overcoming way that I could accept and not feel anxious, not feeling like I'm still confused. I still want what I want. I want to buy love. I want to force love. I want to, make love happen on a compromising terms where it's only one-sided. And until I said, this, I got into the Word and I got into how God created us, not only me, but all of His human beings, is to love, to be created in love, receive love, and give love. And receiving love doesn't hurt. Receiving love isn't abusive. Receiving love, you don't have to force it. You don't have to beg for it. You don't have to buy it. So it was something that I wanted for myself, the release of freedom from, I'm still living in the hometown that I released the book to. And I have a relationship with my biological mother, which I had throughout my years when I was adopted. She was one of the aunts that I believe knew from the beginning what had happened and kept being in my life, her and her husband. Now her husband passed away, but getting to what you were saying, what I had to do, I had to embrace that freedom and build memories with this aunt, because that's the love that I deserve. That's the love that I need. Instead of being frustrated and anxious and worrying about love that only can come in God's time if it's ever meant for me. I got to a place where I can't control anyone's intentions or actions or behaviors towards me. What God has allowed me to do, and I do daily, is know and control my responses and be able to live with them.
Kimberly, thank you for your story. But I was wondering and want to ask you, did you have a mentor, or did you have someone that recognized that you were a child that needed love and needed attention and needed encouragement?
Yes. I was. It's not even funny, but it's God's divine intervention. When I got into my elementary school years, in my first elementary school encounter, at that time in the 70s, there wasn't a lot of tests. So specifically, they did the academic test for me, and I fell under the mild retardation bracket. I was in resource for 6 years. And I'm sorry, let me be accurately, about 4. But through those elementary years, I was with this one resource teacher that seen that there was a little bit more to paper-wise, and that there were some challenges. Now, my adopted mother and father, they came from African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, where they were in a generation where they were much older, and what is going on in the home stays in the home. So I was told pretty much I had the little talk before we went to church, before I was entered in school, is that, if anybody, because there's nosy people out there, ask you, we are little mom, we're Daddy Bill, we're your mom, we're your dad, people are nosy, you don't tell them anything else. It was like my biological life 6 years prior, up until 6 years, was pretty much, you don't share. That's done and over with. That's done and over. But here in my mind, it's very real. It's somewhere where I wanted to be back to, and nobody gave me a say to be here. But that's just pretty much how it was. But my even with my resource teacher that I even addressed in the book did not know too much about the background and how, I had these parents that I had. She knew that there was something special. And she even encouraged them to have me being able to go and talk to someone or whatever. Of course, that was counseling and mental health back in those days was taboo. And it was nothing but pray and fasting. We know that, they said God will make a way, God will answer our prayers, and this too shall pass. So she never went to them again. But what she did do, she applied her love, her unconditional love, her willingness to give her time and her energy to not let this child go. And that's what she said. She said, I don't care if you have to stay with me all the way up until 6th grade. I will not let you go.
I'm envisioning that there could have been a part of your life, maybe even right now, where trust, acceptance, and love and so forth might be a little bit difficult for you. Let me ask you first off, is your biological mother living?
Yes, sir. And I'm still in my hometown. Yes.
Do you have what you consider to be a healthy relationship, a very accepting relationship with your biological mom? And I'm asking that in the context, does your biological mom realize that there was a time in her life where she was not treating you with the love that you were hoping you would get?
No. There's an acceptance as of today of her with a healthy relationship with me.
Is there an aspect of forgiveness that, and this may be another topic that would be good for our listeners to listen from your perspective, was there an aspect of forgiveness? Is there an aspect of forgiveness just at least from the context of you being relieved of any ill feelings you may have had about all this, just to free yourself up?
Yes. Well, there's always been forgiveness. And I was fortunate enough to have an adopted father that instilled that in me. Now, my adopted mother would get kind of jealous, and he would always intervene and say, when I would say, I want to go home, I want to be with my mom, and she would say, things like, how could you? She doesn't want you. Why would you want to be with someone that treats you bad or don't want to? And he would intervene and say, no, we're not going to teach her that. We're not going to raise her this way. So it was always instilled in me love and forgiveness. It was never an unforgiveness part in me. So I never got to the area. What I had always struggled with was accepting a relationship, was the rejection, and her not, the unmet expectation of her loving me and accepting me. I still love her, always will love her. Never have been in my bone or in my body of unforgiving or didn't want to forgive her for the things that she does. And each time that I would reach out to her, it would always be to start where we can start right now, not make up for anything that you have missed in the past, because you can't. But again, God had to push me into my journey to allow me to see I can't. Just like I had to make this change, everyone else have to make a choice and make that change. I can't make that for her. And so in turn, whatever choice another person makes, I have to respond the way that I know God has created me to respond and move to greater things. Not let that be a holdup for me. Not that be a delay for me. Not to let that be a bitter side of me. Because I'm not created to be bitter. I'm created to be better. To give my children the best of me, not the worst of me.
You know of anyone who is or might be living a life of unmet expectations? Those unmet expectations sometimes work their way into our demeanor, our treatment of other people. It happens subconsciously, but those subconscious feelings are what tend to, at times, cause us to focus on the negative. How about you? Are you possibly living a life of unmet expectations? Kimberly has found a way, and she's living the way to deal with those unmet expectations such that the reality of the possibility of living those unmet expectations could work their way into future relationships. I want to encourage you to share this podcast with anyone that is possibly living or could be living a life of unmet expectations. Help them through any feelings they may have that they are being, I use the term sometimes, short-sheeted, or in any other way feel they are not loved the way God has created us to need relationships and to need love. Let's reach out to those. Let's help others advance beyond the feelings of any unmet expectations they may have. Let's share. You have a great attitude and outlook on life in spite of what you've been through. For the listeners who might be saying right now, you're describing what I'm going through, but I haven't gotten through it yet. I'm experiencing anger. I feel rejected. I'm not accepted. I'm maybe not even acceptable. Can you help that person to help them to bridge the gap between where they're maybe feeling rejected, angry, isolated, whatever term it may be? How would you recommend they recover to live what appears to be the better, much better, and maybe a totally recovered life that you're living? Or maybe you're not totally recovered of this at all, but you're just fighting it. At least you know how to make a positive, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say, once again, like to the listeners, how is that working for you? Are you not tired yet? Because you have to be willing. How is that frustration and that isolation and that and your coping tools with that affecting your life, affecting your partner, affecting your children, affecting your job? How is that work for you? Are you not tired? Do you want better? Do you not? Because there is a freedom, there is a release. That all of that can be a process of removing, shedding. This all did not happen overnight. Like I shared during, our talk. There's been times that I'm driving through our town near her area, and I'm getting anxious, and my feelings are getting built up. Am I going to run into this woman if I see her? What can I say to make her stay a little longer and talk to me? Will be this the time that she'll say or put her arms around me and say, "Let's start. Look, we're gonna go out. We're gonna make a date. We're gonna have a daughter and mother relationship." There's been times that I've stopped at the gas station and I've seen her, and I just wanted to, and I did fill up her tank, whatever I could do to please her. So it's a process. So I'm saying to the listeners, don't think that you're alone and the things that you have been through and going through as far as the rejection and abandonment or the feeling let down and the disappointments and the unmet expectations. But give yourself a chance, as long as you are living, to find that freedom, find that better quality of life, that you don't have to cope with the unhealthiness of tools of worry and stress and frustration and anxiety that's just not only hurting you but affecting yourself, your family, your loved ones. That has nothing to do with it, nothing to do with your past. It's ironic that we're talking like we're talking, because all of my adult children, there are 4 of them, and statistics on paper said that I would be a candidate of giving away at least one of my children because of what I went through, abusing at least one of them, not reading or writing effectively. I hold 2 degrees. I've been, I'm a supervisor of a team, worked in various occupations, been a DUI counselor. So paper doesn't, statistics can't, if you're determined, will not define you. But it's ironic when both of my girls, the one that I got pregnant at 15, and that's in my book, the oldest one, couldn't wait for no one else, couldn't wait for me to get my copy, went and got the book. And I said, "Courtney," I said, "what was your favorite part of the book?" She said, "Mom, the book was sad." She said, "Some things I knew about your past, but I I didn't know all of it, like you shared in the book. You were very transparent. I'm so proud of you. But I said, so what was the favorite chapter? She said, the end. I said, that's all I need to know. That's all I need to know, because it was a process, and they are not, getting to the listeners. People that love you, that surround you, should not feel the residue of your past, but the best of you, of what your journey, what you went through in your journey. And you owe it to yourself. Give your chance to break into that freedom, and give the people that love you, the people that's there for you, that best of you.
What is the name of your book, Kimberly?
The Epitome of Kimmy.
The Epitome of Kimmy. Is that available on Amazon and other traditional bookstores?
Yes, sir. It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Yep.
Another topic that I think is worth pursuing in another episode, tell me how you deal with trust. See, the way I'm processing what you're saying about your past and being rejected, can that carry into other relationships that I don't know if I've been rejected many times or just very deeply hurt from rejection, I don't know that I can trust people. Has trust been something that you've been able to develop? Have you had to overcome feelings? And is topic a subject perhaps we can address in another episode?
Yeah, I can touch on that subject because it's kind of, I have to, I'm very transparent on any time that I, talk about my life or my book. But one thing I can tell you, Ron, is I believe I fall in the category of, you would think, as far as my story and how it came about, how God designed it. And I always tell people my journey wasn't just for me, it was for, someone else. And I'm glad I wouldn't change not one thing in my journey to who I am now and what I found me to be. God revealed. That's why I put the epitome. I truly understand the essence of me. And this is where I'm going to touch with you as far as the trust. I fall in the category where I've always been a trusting, a child that would trust immediately. So me not being able to trust wasn't too big of a factor with me. It was just trusting the wrong people. My nature from the beginning as a child is, and then that's why in one of the chapters I talk about the silent cry. I felt like I didn't have a voice, and so it had nothing to do with trust. It was just like if I felt a certain type of way, I didn't have the right or have the voice to or the courage to say, look, no, I believe this is wrong. This is how I feel. This is what I would like to do. So I had to go through that challenge and then overcome that. But it was trusting the right people I had to get a grip on and allow God to help me with that. But trusting, I think I trusted a little bit too much throughout my years as far as what I had been through, and that's because of my characteristic, my nature, and understanding. That's why I put that little simple thing of accept and embrace it all, is because how even the listeners, they could define that accept and embrace it all once they give their self that chance to know them. I'm still in the process of knowing me because I haven't got up in age. I'm almost 50 now, Ron and Marty. I'm almost 50, so I'm still knowing the little involving and the little changes that I have, but not my characteristics haven't changed so much as being the kind, the motherly, the nourishing. But I always have to keep it in perspective when I go into relationships, because I can't overflow the desire or the love that I know that I deserve, if you can understand what I'm saying.
That is very well said. Ultimately, Kimberly, was it your relationship with God that helped put things together, get your life back in order in whatever term you would use?
Yes. Like I said, my adopted dad helped that a lot. And he had a third grade education. He was from father and the shore, Marion Station in Crystal, and he shucked oysters for a living. He used to tell me, how he prayed even with a third grade education for wisdom, and how a man only has his word to be honorable by. So he would give me those little wisdom tidbits, and throughout the journey of being raised with them, I remember him praying, and I remember him saying, "You're right, baby," and this is where I got the Kimmy from. He would be the one that says, he would say, "Kimmy," he said, "listen to your dear old dad. I would never tell you nothing wrong." He said, "But God is love. You were created in love, and you're good enough to receive love. I love you. I love you just how you are." And then sometimes I would get bashful, and I would try to cover my mouth because, my biological, my adopted mom would show a difference of this distinguishedness of my features. Still say, "But we still love you." It would be a but. So to a child, the but is, oh, that's something wrong with it. But he would say, no, Kimmy, you listen to your dear old dad. You stop not smiling. Don't ever stop smiling, because that smile is for the world to see. Do you know how many people would light up just to see you smile? And I would get so he was the one that built that foundation about God. And when he did that, I said a simple prayer in 6th grade that I just didn't want to be different, Ron and Marty. I remember praying. I said, because I went through the bullying, not by all kids, because some of them were nice to me, but some knew that I was in resource and went in that room every day. So when I would go out to recess, they would call me the little retarded girl. So I got worried down, just way down. But I remember this man that I looked up to, that I felt that would protect me to a certain extent, even though I knew my biological father and my biological mother let me down, and it seemed that they would never come back and get me. Here's this man that God had put in my life that seems like now, that's my child thinking, won't let me down, and I have been shown nothing but stability and love. So obviously he knows what he's talking about this God. So I remember saying a prayer that, look, God, I don't want to be different. I just don't want to be different. I never was the type of kid that wanted pity or sympathy. I just didn't want to look at being different. And miraculously, when I say miraculously, in 7th and 8th grade, I was on honor roll the entire time. Went out for flags, made flags. You would not know unless you went in my elementary school files that this was the same child that had a reading and a retaining information problem to the 7th grade. And it was just that simple prayer. So, yeah, my foundation, and I build that on my, in turn, had that built with all my children, and even now to my grandchildren, that foundation of God really helped. And then besides God, because faith without works is dead, I never not let anyone know that it also, with God, has to start with you. So without you and God, you making that decision, that's not going to work. God is not forceful God. He made us with will. We're willing human beings, that we make choices. So I remember in DUI counseling, they would always laugh at me. I said, help me help you, because I can't do this by myself. And you can't do it by yourself. But I cannot do it all. And I will not do it all. So I constantly, getting back to what you were saying, Ron and Martin, every day I put myself in the I category. How, Lord, can I be used to exemplify the best, the purpose-driven life that you have for me, the best potential that I need to get to?
You have such a great life story, great life attitude. You are living that purpose-driven life. Marty and I can sense that, Kimberly. And it's just great that you are willing to share your story with others. That I am absolutely certain there are some of our listeners who are saying, I'm in the story that Kimberly is describing, and she's inspiring me that there is hope.
Yes.
I want to thank you for sharing your story, and it's a very inspirational story for others that anybody can overcome any aspect in life if you surround yourself with the right positive thinking people, if we choose to have a relationship with our Lord, and we allow others to be a positive aspect of our life.
Yes. And that's the key there, Ron. Like, I had to learn to even embrace that, what you just said at the end. Allow the positive people, because what I wanted and desired and yearned for my biological mother and have a relationship with her, the woman that God had allowed to hear me speak at a women's conference and embrace me and come into my life, for about a year and a half, I stopped talking to her because I wasn't ready to let go of the unmet expectations. And so I want to tell the listeners, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself, because God brings in people in your life sometimes for a season, sometimes for a lifetime, but embrace it. Embrace it, because they may be that tool that you need to help you overcome.
That is such a great story, Kimberly. Again, thank you for sharing and being willing to pass forward your life experiences and help people overcome any aspect of the past. You're a great inspiration.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for allowing me and giving me the opportunity to use your platform to be able to share my journey, you and Marty. I thank you, and it's such an honor.
And we thank you.
Kimberly describes her life of unmet expectations, biological parents that she felt did not love her, could not love her. Because of that, she felt that she was unaccepted, maybe even unacceptable. Any of these feelings that any of us may have, we tend to carry into the rest of our lives, that we're just not meeting other people's expectations of us. We're falling short. We tend to carry these expectations into other relationships because we focus on what we wanted or came short of having, rather than overcoming any feelings of inadequacy that we may have. It's the person who is willing to deal with situations. They have the awareness of the propensity that my feelings might carry into other relationships, who seek help from, seek relationships with those who care enough about them to help them overcome any of these feelings of inadequacy. Kimberly has overcome and is in the process of overcoming, and possibly will for the rest of her life, deal with these feelings of inadequacy and shortcomings. But let's work with those who, within your circle of influence, others you know, may be feeling something, maybe have experienced something very similar to Kimberly. You know they have feelings of inadequacy, and you know they need help, and it's a matter of us reaching out to and showing others we care enough that we want to help them overcome whatever feelings they may have. Some people will need coaching, and it's a matter of working through these feelings that are in the subconscious that work their way into the current relationships and have a tendency to dominate our lives. Marty and I are certified coaches with John Maxwell. We can help you overcome. We can help anyone within your circle of influence overcome anything that is keeping a person from living their full God-given potential. Call us at 410-586-1875 or send an email to ron@thecooperculture.com or Marty, M-A-R-T-Y, @thecooperculture.com. Our heart desire is to help people live their God-designed potential. We know that God designed us to have relationships, to want relationships. It is through that fulfilled life that we can have the relationships that God has destined us to have. Marty and I have developed a digital relationship course where we have dedicated this course to developing relationships that help you find the right person
who could potentially become a lifetime mate, to have fulfilling dating relationships, and carry all the way into the fulfillment of marriage. As of this recording, Marty and I have been married 53 years, and I have a total fulfilling life of marriage to Marty. And I think I can speak for her and say that she too would reciprocate by saying it's a very fulfilling marriage. Albeit, Marty and I are very opposite people. We are opposite in very complementary ways. So let's work together. Let's help people overcome any feelings of inadequacy, any feelings that we're not meeting someone's expectation. Let's work together to work through some of these things that have a tendency to control our lives. Let's fill people with positive people and help them overcome anything that is keeping them from living their full potential, but rather we can help people advance to living their full God-given potential and to live that fulfilling life that God has designed for each one of us. But let's work together. Let's share. We hope we can warrant a 5-star rating on this podcast and this series. We hope that you will want to share this podcast with everyone within your circle of influence, your Facebook friends, your LinkedIn connections. We hope that you will share with us in the comment section things that you have experienced, you are experiencing, what has worked, what has not worked. The more we share with each other, the greater positive impact we will be on those within our circle of influence. We look forward to working with you.
Beautiful Anonymous changes each week. It defies genres and expectations. For example, our most recent episode, I talked to a woman who survived a murder attempt by her own son. But just the week before that, we just talked the whole time about Star Trek. We've had other recent episodes about sexting in languages that are not your first language, or what it's like to get weight loss surgery. It's unpredictable, it's real, it's honest, it's raw. Get Beautiful Anonymous wherever you listen to podcasts.